Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see the summary of Travel Writing and Ethnography by Joan Pau Rubiessummary. Joan Pau, what he does is he tries to understand what Europeans came to know about the cultures of the other countries through travel stories. And he says that many people wrote travel literature like explorers, missionaries, and traders. And in their writing, they described different places they visited. And that is how these stories became very important because these Europeans used that to analyze the other countries. And he says during 15th to 18th centuries, the European explorers mainly traveled to Asia, Africa, and America. And they described the people they saw, their nature, their customs, religion, forms of government, and language. And all this became an important part in travel writing, which was written in Europe after the 16th century. And particularly writers like Jose de Acosta focused on the moral elements and also on men and human affairs. And when we say travel writing, there are many types of travel writing. For example, Francis Drake's travels focused mainly on how the English attacked the Spanish colonies. Whereas the merchants, they wrote about the places and people they met to the places where they went to do trading. And Edmund Scott, Java, here he talks about those people in a different manner. And even the relation of Golconda, which was written by William Ethward, these two are early examples of travel writing. And particularly writers from Liberia and Italy, they came to places like Africa, America, and Asia and wrote about them in their books. And the main reason what people say about English colonization of North America is through these travel writings, they were given the idea that these people were barbarians and needed to be civilized. And therefore, the English justified their colonization in North America. Pilgrims were the first travel story writers. And mainly why they wrote is they went to places where non-Christians were there, and they traveled and then they recorded their travel and what they saw, but their main goal was to convert these non-Christians to Christianity. And Henry Lord's display of two foreign sects in the East Indies has tried to explain about the different religions and also change those people to Christianity. And Jan Huygen van Linchen's Discourse of Voyages into the East and West Indies gives a full picture of the Portuguese East at the time of 1580s. And mainly these British imperial projects like Cook's journey to the Pacific and to the Great Victorian expeditions to Africa has actually trained other generations and generation of explorers and survivors in both the fields of science and also in commercial goals, because the main aim is for trading. And in history we find that even though whether it is 15th century, 16th or 18th or 19th or present day, some things have stayed the same, that is faith, marriage, women, sexuality, dress, language, literature, science, technology and other arts, and also how the country runs its economy. And only in the 19th century we find that these ideas of racial ideas came somewhere between the middle of the 19th century. And in the later part of the 16th century, we find the Royal Society focusing mainly on the new scientific ideas. And Roger Williams, a key into the language of America, shows evidence that they started writing in the Indian voices because the native voice is very important. And particularly if a person is not an English person, but he goes to Europe and he learns English and he starts writing in English about his journey. And if it is going to be unique like the native voice, then it is really something which should be appreciated. And that can be seen in the story of Alonda Ikona or the book African by Gustavus Vasa. Dean Mohammed, who is a Bengali Muslim and he worked for East Indian Company and later on he lived in Britain, he has written a travelogue, and when you read the travelogue you will think that he is an European rather than an Asian. And the ethnographic style which was used by Muhammad is more European, and he has used European writing conventions and British oralistic research. And we can also say that his view was shaped by the army society, and it makes a traveler's identity complicated because we will not be able to say that he is an Asian. You will definitely think it's an European if you do not know about the author of the book. And some evidence also says that ethnography was definitely used to support and defend imperialism. But many travel writers wrote used ethnography for many other reasons, like romanticizing the natives. They started loving the native peoples where they went, or for travel writers who lamented about what happened to them after Europeans came in contact with them, or to emphasize how different culture systems are the ideas of the noble savage, which was dominated by the philosophical conversation in the 18th century, especially when it came to the stories about Pacific Islanders. And some French writers like Montaigne, Rousseau, and Diderot, they saw the savage as a natural man in a very good light. They started admiring them. And Anson's voyage showed the Chinese to be dishonest, weak, and corrupt. And actually, this started a bad trend in how Europeans felt about the Chinese. And Montesquieu used Anson's journey as a proof to develop his idea of Oriental tyranny. He saw the Chinese as a type of arbitrary rule that was harsh and went against European ideas of political freedom, private property, and civil law. And we should also understand that there is a difference between the science of ethnography, which was used by merchants, navigators, missionaries, and colonial officials, and the rise of scientific anthropology as an academic field. A new history of man was created by spontaneous ethnographers like William Method, Roger Williams, and Robert Knox. And travel philosophers like Bernier and naturalists like Joseph Banks and Alexander von Humboldt, on the other hand, were interested in ideas. In the 1800s, romantic travelers and scientists like Thomas Raffles, Burton, and Wallace went beyond what Europe controlled to find, which we can say as a remote examples of human and environmental diversity. Robert Louis Stevenson's 1896 book In the South Seas shows him writing about the people as though they were falling apart forever. And after World War II, there was a new situation that had a big effect on the role of ethnography in trip writing. In conclusion, we can say that travel writing and ethnography by Rubies shows how travel stories from the early modern period actually helped Europeans understand other cultures, even though the stories were often biased. These accounts contributed to the development of ethnography and influenced European ideas about the world, including the justification for colonialism. If you have anything more to add on to what I've said, please write it in the comment box, like the video, share it with your friends, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and support. Thank you.